Tanabata Manga.
I'm a 24-year-old employee, going on my second year at this company. I've never had a boyfriend in my life. I met my boyfriend Takashi through a mutual friend. He looks good enough to be on TV. But he never bragged about it and was incredibly kind to me, although I was very inexperienced. I was invited out to dinner and eventually he asked me out. I was so happy to be able to date someone like this. However, as soon as we started dating, he had to move departments. We continued dating long distance for 4 years. Afterwards, I moved away from my hometown near him and found a job there. We started living together. Honestly, it was pretty nervous to move to a place where I didn't know anyone at all. I was pretty lonely too. After living with him for 2 years, Takashi gave me an engagement ring. It was a ring that I had always wanted, and I really felt like I was the happiest I'd ever been. About 2 years and a half of living together. Takashi, where did you put the wedding pamphlets?
Huh? Well, I might have left it in the car.
Gotcha. I'm gonna go check on something, so can you give me the car keys real quick?
What? Does it have to be now?
Takashi has an online game that he's obsessed with for a while. He hasn't let go of it. My mom just reached out to me to ask me which wedding venue I was interested in.
Okay, the key is at the entrance, so go take it.
I found the pamphlet, and just as I was going to go back, I saw his business bag in the back. Maybe it was just a hunch. I felt like I shouldn't look, but I couldn't resist. There was a small album with a cute character on it. It had nothing to do with Takashi or his hobbies, and it wasn't even his handwriting. It said, Takashi and Mommy's Lovey-Dovey album. Looking inside, I noticed that there was a cute woman. Henceforth, Mommy, and Takashi smiling and having fun. The album started about a year ago and I brought the file and album back to the house, holding back my nausea and short breath. I hid the album in a shelf at the entrance where he almost never looked. I was a little awkward, but he didn't care at all. I was so confused by who Mommy was and how I wanted to take revenge on Takashi for betraying me. I couldn't sleep at all that night. The next day, I immediately went to a PI. Takashi had said that he was going back to his parents' house on the next 3-day weekend, but I knew he would be seeing Mommy. I couldn't hold anything down until the 3-day weekend and I had almost lost 2 kilograms by then. But Takashi never noticed or seemed to care about any of that. If anything, he seemed excited about the 3-day weekend coming up. I was sure that he was going to see her. The first day of the weekend, he left the house with a huge smile on his face. I knew that I had to make him experience hell. A little after the 3-day weekend was over, I went to the PI's office to pick up anything he found. I was handed some documents and a video.
Yes, they went into a hotel. They didn't leave that day. They stayed overnight.
The PI explained everything to me. There were photos of Takashi and Mommy holding hands and going into a hotel, feeding each other ice cream. I was a little nervous, but they seemed to be having so much fun. I was honestly just able to separate myself from him after this emotionally. I invited Takashi's parents to my house and had a video presentation the night I received the documents. I had met his parents a couple times before, so they didn't think anything about it, and neither did Takashi. I made things that they would like, and it was just going smoothly as usual. He was having an affair on me just a little while back, and he's sitting there pretending that nothing is wrong. I am absolutely shocked. After dinner was over, it was time for me to show the video off. His parents tried to help me put the dishes away, but go on, relax, and enjoy the video. I made them sit. At first, Takashi was especially confused by what was being played in the TV. As everyone started figuring out what was going on, Takashi's mother grew paler, and Takashi's father became more red. It was actually kind of funny to see the two.
Who the hell is this girl?
Takashi's father grabbed him by the collar and began yelling at him. His mother was on the ground, sobbing. Takashi quickly explained that the girl on the TV, Mommy, was someone that he met at one of his clients' offices. I knew because the PI had told me. I calmed the father down and told Takashi that I wanted to talk to Mommy alone. He told me Mommy's number without hesitation. once again. Thinking about it now, he probably was trying to use mommy as a decoy to shift the blame. I told them that I would decide what I wanted to do with Takashi after I spoke to mommy and had them take Takashi away from the house. Calling mommy's number, she was shocked. She hadn't known that Takashi was engaged. She said that she wanted to hear what was going on, so we both agreed to share our stories at a restaurant one day over lunch. At first, I was a little worried that she might get mad with me, but meeting her, she was incredibly beautiful, with emphasis on the incredibly. To add to that, she had a great personality and seemed to be a decent human being, so I could kind of tell how we would fall for her. Mommy really didn't know about me and kept begging for my forgiveness that she was wrecking my marriage, even though it wasn't her fault. If anything, Mommy was in the same situation as me, and Takashi was fooling her too. But she kept apologizing and making this nice girl beg. I was pissed off once again at Takashi. Mommy said that she wanted to call Takashi and to talk with the three of us, so I decided to call Takashi since I agreed. He showed up and immediately
Sorry, I'm dating Mamie.
showed no remorse. Mommy and I were completely at a loss. Am I correct in my interpretation that you're saying since you're dating Mommy you would like to break off the engagement? I suddenly caught myself being terribly formal towards Takashi.
Yeah, my main chick is Mamie, so we're not getting married. I'm thinking about marrying her.
Mommy, hearing those words, looked at him as if she saw a smelly pile of feces in a hot summer sun and let out a single phrase. Ugh! You're such a shithead! Takashi was confused as to why he was just called a shithead by the woman he had just chosen. He was clearly panicking.
Uh-huh?
Mommy ignored him and said to me, "Let's go, Miss Watashi. Leave this trash to rot alone." Takashi was just sitting there, like a deer in headlights. Mommy didn't stop apologizing the whole day. I understand if you don't want anything to do with me from this point on, but I would love to be able to repay you for what I've done. So she suggested that we trade contact info. I didn't really have a reason to tell her no, so I agreed. According to Mommy, Takashi came over to her house at night, crying and begging. Mommy started saying that she wanted to pay me in damages, but I just couldn't bring myself to think that she was just a bad person. Not to mention, I couldn't even bring myself to hate her, so I said it wasn't necessary. In return, I wanted her to help me with all the evidence for Takashi to pay on her part. Takashi was dumped by Mommy and I had sued him for a large amount of money. Of course, I won. Also, apparently, he told Mommy that he took PTO and had also taken off work to go on dates with her. After sending proof of the whole ordeal to his company, he was fired. Takashi's parents came over to my house another day and begged me for forgiveness. They said that they would be cutting all ties with Takashi. And I was a little surprised by Takashi, who showed up at my house after being dumped by his parents and Mommy.
It's me. Let's try again. You're the only person that understands me.
I called the police the second he started bawling in front of my house. Mommy said that she would never show up in front of me again and that she would be quitting her job to relocate, but I stopped her. We are actually pretty good friends now. After finding out about Takashi's affair, I took a deep wound after our engagement was called off, but at least it was Mommy. That's the silver lining. If it wasn't Mommy, it probably wouldn't have been this easy and I probably would have been just dumped and hurt. I still don't forgive him, but I hope that both of us can find men that will make us happy.
When I was in middle school, there was a girl who was a year older than me who was in my friend's class. She had a development disorder and was very calm and slow at moving classes. And at school, she was raped and bullied by a man. She had an abortion, and there were rumors that she had been held back a year as a result. She actually had a pretty weak body, and by the time she started middle school, she had to take off time to recover. Then, the main bully of the bully group started saying things about who the person was that got her pregnant. He would say that it must have been her father, just for fun. Miss Nanako was a year older than everyone else and was pretty mature. No matter what they said, she just ignored them. But then the main bully
The fact you don't say anything back must mean it's true, huh?
started saying that it must be true and spreading rumors. Because of that, the rumor spread quickly, and everyone thought it was disgusting. It only escalated from there. People would put trash and hair in her bento. People would draw using permanent markers on her desk and write lewd things in her textbooks. In her indoor shoes, there were dead bugs and thumbtacks. She was terrified and crying alone. But there was a man named Taneo who would save her. He, of course, helped her out at school too, but even during field trips and school trips, he made sure that she wouldn't be bullied. If Nanako had hair in her food, he would give her his food. If there was writing on her desk, he would clean it. He would also share his textbooks. He put her indoor shoes in his shoebox and put his own shoes in her shoebox. The teachers knew about that, and they intentionally placed him in the same class for all of high school. During middle school, Taneo was a small kid with glasses, so he wasn't exactly a hit with girls. But he was top of the class in academics and even became student president and councilman. The teachers liked him too, so he wasn't openly bullied, but the main bullies didn't like the perfect Taneo. They started messing with him in dirty ways too. During class, the main bully would do small attacks against him without making any sounds. The girls would laugh about it when they were in on it. During breaks, he would get peed on from behind and,
Oh, sorry.
thought you were a urinal. Be told mean things. One day, he was carrying the homework back from the teacher's office to class, and he was shoved down some stairs. Luckily, he wasn't injured, and he didn't say anything to the teacher, so he was just kept quiet. I ran up to Taneo and talked to him. He stood up immediately. I'm fine, it's no biggie. He dusted off his knees and acted like nothing had happened. I remember the hate-filled eyes in that moment. Later on, he was accepted to the high school of his choosing, and he would often visit Nanako in her family-run hospital. But Taneo went to a college in Tokyo, and he could only visit her once or twice a year. When we had our ceremony welcoming new adults, Taneo and Nanako weren't around. I thought that the two must not be that serious anymore. And then, everyone cared.
What if Tano and Nanako wants to take revenge on us?
About themselves. Everyone was grown up, and some of us were even married with kids. That starts to make you think about everything you've done. When everyone was about 27, went to a class reunion, and people found out that Taneo would be attending the class reunion.
What should we do? We should apologize, right?
Is what everyone thought. But the main bully works in construction, single.
We have no reason to apologize. It's so long ago.
He was running around telling people that, and everyone agreed. But society is cruel, and between an elite worker that went to Tokyo and a construction worker who works in the middle of nowhere, everyone chose Taneo. Taneo went to a very famous college, in addition to his high school, and when he came to the class reunion, he was making the most money. He wore a nice suit, and the Taneo that was short and wore glasses was no more. He wore contacts, and was well over 1.8 meters tall. He was so different from how he was before that at first, people really had no idea who he was. But people had heard that he was rich. So now some of the girls who helped bully him started changing their tune.
Hey, Tano, what do you do now? How much do you make? I heard you make boatloads. Are you going to get married? Do you have a girlfriend? Are you going to get married?
They would surround him, excited to talk to him. I work as a surgeon, but it's not that big of a deal. I don't have a girlfriend and I'm not going to get married yet, he replied. Right around surgeon. Girls together. Wow, that's crazy. They screamed together in unison, and even other girls in the background started chiming in to talk to him. They were all trying to get in on his good side. After, some of the bullies, including the main culprit, worked construction and worked up a sweat. They wanted to try and find a girl to marry, so they took quick showers and wore suits, but Taneo came as soon as he finished work. But he still didn't stink or anything, and all the girls were talking to him. The main culprit was furious, and so Taneo was beat to a pulp. He was fine apparently, but not one person could get in touch with Taneo after that. A few years later, the main bully fell from his footing, down about 6 meters. He fell from his head, so he was unconscious for a while, but woke up a few days later. When he woke up, he saw Taneo in his doctor uniform. "Been a minute," he said, emotionless. The main bully was taken to the hospital, where Taneo worked at Nanako's family-run hospital. It was one of the largest hospitals in the area. Taneo went to college in Tokyo and worked there for a few years before he moved back here and worked under Nanako's father. Nanako was married to Taneo and they live happily together. Nanako was always a little frail, and she developed a disease as soon as she graduated middle school. She couldn't really go to high school, and when Taneo graduated college, she was told that this would be her final visit to the hospital. The reason she developed the disease to begin with was because she was stressed from being bullied. Taneo decided his second year of high school that he would become a doctor. At the same time, he made sure that he would take his revenge on the bullies. Taneo became a medical student, and Nanako still got sick occasionally. Every time she got sick, he would go visit Nanako and spend time with her. Taneo worked harder than the average person to become the top of the class and become a doctor. After he worked hard learning the ropes as a doctor in Tokyo, he became a surgeon. Afterwards, he married Nanako and decided to take over the hospital. Nanako has recovered quite a bit, and they spend their days loving life. The main bully didn't die, but he was told that he would end up in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. And then Taneo said, "This is what's called karma," to me. "You did something?" I joked with him. "Me? I would never." He chuckled, but his eyes weren't laughing. Yumi and I started talking about marriage since we had been dating a few years. She accepted my proposal and we had our parents greet each other as well. Yumi's grandmother suggested we put in our wedding papers quickly. We had moved a little too quick. We couldn't find a place to live. We really moved too quickly.
True, but we're already married. We're husband and wife.
We were so in love and felt like we would have our wedding real soon. A few months later, we found a nice place. "We finally found one," I said to Yumi, expecting a joyous response. However, she seemed a little upset.
Yeah.
"What's wrong? Did something happen?"
I have something important to talk to you about.
She said, looking down. I thought it was that she didn't like the room I suggested. Maybe she fell out of love with me while we were living apart. I was thinking of all the worst things in my mind. My wife suddenly raised her head.
I was cheating on you.
"What?" I was shocked, and she looked refreshed. I was continuously shocked by the words that followed.
Oh, but don't worry about it. I broke up with him yesterday. You're my only one now. I thought I'd keep it from you, but we're married, so we can't keep secrets.
Are you being serious? She looked like she was so proud of herself for being loyal. It was gross. Yumi, clearly not feeling any guilt from the fact she was having an affair, tried to end the conversation as abruptly as she had started it.
Let's not hide anything going forward. Alright, that's it for this subject.
I was a little slow to understand what was going on and stared at her for a while before I said something back with furious rage. "What the hell are you talking about? We're not over this subject. You need to get your head checked." Yumi looked over, seriously surprised.
I said it was over. Why are you so mad?
"You ended it yesterday? What the hell, this whole time? How many times did you sleep with him while we were living apart?"
I said I'm done with it. If you keep going, I'm going to get tired of you.
That's not the problem here. You understand you're my wife, right?
I know. We got married. What is that attitude anyway? We're married now, so I told you everything without hiding it.
This girl must be thinking I'm an idiot. I thought that I could finally live with Yumi. This was too shocking for me to stay cool, calm, and collected. However, Yumi clearly messed up in the head.
Wait, Tano, listen to me. Husband and wife means that two strangers come together to talk about things and forgive each other, right? But you're not listening to me at all. I don't think we're going to work out if we keep this up. Okay?
What? Is this really the woman I married? I slowly started boiling with rage watching her behaviour.
She spent countless nights with men while I wasn't around. I honestly even felt like puking.
Tano, are you okay?
Don't touch me. Get the hell out of my house. I thought about what I should do after chasing out Yumi. I talked to a mutual friend who worked at her office and told her everything. And her friend said,
Oh, sorry, I didn't tell you. She was apparently going out with one of her bosses. I saw her with some random dude in Shibuya the other night. I thought it was weird.
Could have said that sooner. But I was able to at least figure out who the person she was having an affair with was. First, I need to report this to a certain someone, so I made my move. That whole time, Yumi had called and texted me an upward of 300 times, but I ignored her and called her parents. She must be there.
What's going on, Mr. Tano? She just came home out of the blue.
Apparently, Yumi hadn't explained anything to her parents. Did she tell you anything at all?
No, nothing out of the normal.
Okay, I'll go over right now. Let me explain everything once I get there. I took Yumi's stuff from my house and headed to her parents' place. When I got there, her parents welcomed me in. Yumi and her father were both in the room.
So, what happened, Tano?
Her mother-in-law asked me so. I'll just be frank with you. Your daughter said that she was having an affair up until yesterday. I'm going to get a divorce, of course. And then Yumi said,
No! What are you talking about? We were done with that conversation.
I don't know why she was crying. I honestly couldn't feel the least bit of sympathy for her.
This must be some kind of mistake.
Please look at these texts and messages. I handed my phone to a trembling mother-in-law. As they confirmed what had happened, the mum collapsed crying and the father was furious.
You understand what you've done. You apologize. Beg for forgiveness.
He continued to berate her. I was aware of the hell that had just spawned in front of me. Let's talk about our divorce. It calmed everyone down to bring our conversation back to the topic at hand. Then Yumi, screaming.
I don't believe you divorced me over this. You're telling me I shouldn't have told you the truth and been honest with you? Just kept it to myself? Forever?
She ignored the fact that she had cheated and gotten mad at me. I was done. Shut the hell up, you bitch. You think it's fine as long as you don't say anything? Husband and wife should talk to each other. Are you stupid? I don't have any love or trust in you. I don't want to see you. She finally realised what she had done and was trembling in fear of me. I was cheating on you, but I told you the truth, so forgive me? What's wrong with you? What would you do if I did the same thing to you? And you realised that your partner had a family? You piece of shit. What are you talking about? This conversation is over. How can you smile? I was just bluffing when I pretended to know that he had a family, but apparently I was right.
Why are you... What? Suing?
Whatever. I'm going to get a divorce and I'm going to be suing you and your partner. So you better be ready. I was in front of her parents, but I didn't care anymore. It was obvious that they were extremely angry at her. Later on, I called up her affair, as I said, and we all started talking about our divorce and the terms. The man. I'm so sorry. He apologised, but I wasn't planning on just saying it's okay. If you can't pay me $50,000 in damages, I'm going to take you to court so you won't be able to hide it from your work or family. He looked shocked and upset. Oh, okay, he replied quietly. I came out victorious and immediately had them sign the contracts. Next up was Yumi, but we just couldn't get anything that made sense out of her, so we spoke with the parents and had everything settled.
I'm not going to let this go.
Yumi was borderline insane, so I made sure that I put in a restraining order. If she broke the restraining order, she would be fined $1,000. Surprise, surprise, she showed up at my house 3 times after that. She was forced to pay the fine, and then she suddenly stopped showing up. Apparently, her parents had basically confined her to her room. She had an affair and apologised like she had eaten my last fry. I seriously am actually a little terrified of her. If I hadn't divorced her, I'd be living life with a woman who thought it would be fine if she just told the truth about everything. Yeah, no, that's not okay. I withdrew myself from the house that we were supposed to move into, and currently, I live in a quiet but peaceful place in the town over. Yumi talks about how she still loves me, but
I'm never going to deal with her for the rest of my life again.
When I was in college, 5 of my friends and I used to drive and travel together. I have my own car, and I'm the only one with a driver's license, so I do all the driving. I didn't mind being the driver because I liked driving. When I filled up the gas in the morning, I picked everyone up at their house and refilled the gas on the way home, and my 4 friends split the cost of that. I was willing to give them a ride because of that arrangement, but then, one day, things took a turn. It was when we traveled far away. It was far away, so gasoline cost more. But Ako didn't like that.
It's hard for the 4 of us to split the cost of this trip. Watashi, you should split the cost with us as well,
She said. Then Biko immediately.
That's not good. She takes her car out every time, and she drives on top of that.
She backed me up, but Ako was not convinced.
But you know, if you include the highway fare, wouldn't it be the same if we took the train? I appreciate the driving, but I still think Watashi gets more out of it if you think about it in terms of hourly wage.
What do you mean? No one is benefiting from it. Watashi pays insurance and taxes on her car too, so there's money involved that you don't even see. And if you take 5 people on a long trip, the car will probably wear down, so if anything, Watashi's the one who's losing out. So we're just grateful that we only have to pay for gas.
Everyone but Ako understood, like Biko, that it was expensive and difficult just to have a car. By the way, it was also Biko who suggested paying for the gas by splitting the cost, except for me. At first, I was reluctant to say, it's fine, but then she said that it would make it harder to travel in my car. I ended up accepting the proposal as is. After that, everyone said various things to Ako, but she kept repeating.
But...
And?
Because...
You have to drive with a lot of caution when you drive long distances with a lot of people in the car. And we all went on a trip together to relax, but she kept nagging, and by the end of the trip I was tired. And to be honest, it was annoying and frustrating. I don't want this to happen in the future, so I decided to make it clear that this wasn't going to work. Okay, then we'll split the gas money among the 5 of us.
What?
No, we can't.
It's fine. It's fine. In exchange, I won't let Ako in my car anymore.
What? What? We don't need your share for short trips, and the 4 of us will split as usual, so let me ride. I'm just asking because I didn't realize how much gas it would cost for a long drive this time.
I don't like that, because it's not clear what you would consider a short trip. Pay or don't ride. 2 options.
Okay, I'll pay.
Ako was very reluctant to pay, but eventually she agreed and then paid me. After that, we decided to go on another trip to a distant place. However, this time, when we were planning the trip, I asked Ako again about the cost of gasoline.
This time we're going farther than before, so it's going to cost more for gas. We're not going to ask Watashi to pay for it, so the 4 of us will split the cost.
What? Why don't we take the train then? Wouldn't that be cheaper?
I checked, and it's basically the same.
Besides, it's no fun to go straight to a destination by train. Isn't it fun to stop along the way and take various detours?
Well, that's true, but...
What are you going to do? Are you going by car? If gas is too expensive, why don't we do it some other time nearby? No pressure.
Okay, I'll go.
So we ended up going on another trip with the 5 of us, with Ako. When it came time to pay for the gas on the way home, Ako started to complain again.
I'm still not convinced. You don't have to split it, but shouldn't you at least put a little bit in, Watashi?
I was so upset when she said that. Then, Ako, you won't have to pay a penny this time. I'll pay. But in return, I won't give you a ride because I don't trust you anymore. get off now." After saying that, I got out of the car alone and took Ako's luggage out of the trunk and left it at a rest stop at the gas station. Ako is still sitting in the car.
I'll pay! I'll pay you, so don't leave me!
I told you I don't trust you anymore. Come on, get out. And I opened the door on the side where Ako was sitting, and I tried to lead her out.
You're joking, right?
Of course I'm serious. Ako is still holed up in the car after all this. Hurry up and get out! And I screamed at her. Everyone was surprised because I usually never shout this loudly. Ako was also startled and got out of the car in a hurry. So I got into the car, put on my seatbelt, and started the engine.
At least take me home. I'll pay you.
Why don't you just take a cab? Are you going to complain every time I'm tired from driving? You ruin the fun trip every time, and I've had enough of that. That's why I'll never let you ride my car again.
Oh, please don't say that. Even the Buddha forgives 3 times.
Is she serious? I'm not Buddha. I'm just a human being. Bye-bye. And so, I drove off without her. From then on, almost every time we went out in the car, the 4 of us made plans to go out together. Since we went to college together, I tried to invite Ako to join us when we used public transportation until we graduated so as not to make waves. We lived in a rather rural area where it was inconvenient without a car, so we rarely traveled by public transportation, and our social interaction decreased dramatically. Then, it was senior year and summer vacation. Everyone had been offered jobs in the same prefecture. So everyone, including Ako, started going to driving school at the same time. And in the fall, they successfully got their licenses. So we talked about taking turns taking a trip in the car for our graduation trip, but my car is family only, so my friends can't drive. Ako is the one who said that the train is cheaper than gas and highway fees, so there's no way she would rent a car on top of that. For the graduation trip, we were to rent a car and to take a 2-night trip without telling Ako. In the end, we found out that rental cars cannot be driven by people who have less than a year's license, so we ended up taking a trip in my car driven by me. After graduation, Ako,
"Wanna go on a trip once in a while? I'll drive too."
She invited us from time to time. I almost took her up on the offer, thinking that if she learned to drive herself, she might understand how I felt. But in the end, I reconsidered and said no, because people who don't pay for gas or are inconsiderate to drivers are often inconsiderate in their daily lives as well. After a year, Ako gave up, and she stopped contacting me altogether, and no one knows how she's doing. But one day, Siko found a post from a college classmate's social media which happened to mention someone who seemed like Ako. I went on a trip with a friend and we got cheated out of the gas money, on top of being nagged, so I had the worst time. Something like that was written. It had a few photos with Ako before that post, so it was definitely about her. Biko and I thought how nothing has changed with her. Not long after that post, Ako contacted me for the first time in a while. I don't want to see someone who has no manners. Send. I told her clearly, and we have been traveling with the 4 of us since then. My name is Nanako, and I'm 28 years old. My parents are farmers, and they gave me their blessing on one condition. I take over the farm. That's why I currently live near my parents' farm with my husband Takashi and my daughter Mai. My husband and my parents get along really well, and he works very hard at the farm. But there's one time that I really don't like things. It's when I go back to his family during New Year's. This year, I was pretty upset before heading to his parents' place.
I'm home, Mom.
You're late. It's already the evening. You didn't help out with the dinner at all.
I told you that I couldn't get on the train till this afternoon.
My back hurts and I'm tired, so you do the rest, Nanako. Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry for being late. This is what I was greeted with as soon as I walked into the house. I immediately felt worse. My husband has siblings, an older and younger sister. He's the only son and he passed before he met me. The older one got a divorce and came back to live with her mom, and the younger sister has been single forever. My mother-in-law doesn't appreciate that my husband took our name to take over the farm. She's been very tough on me and is the stereotypical mother-in-law. When my husband isn't around, she escalates things like crazy and will kick me and hit me with rags. You're seriously useless and ugly. She would keep telling me things, but I love my husband, so I hope one day she would accept me. But I didn't go against it. I had been doing my best for her. I started getting dinner ready. He would come to help, but my mother-in-law and his sisters didn't like that. You, shut up. You better not spoil her just because she's your wife. It's not in her best interest. Yeah, you're always being used by her like that. I feel so bad for you.
Shut up. You know damn well that she can't handle this on her own. I'm not gonna come back home if you keep this crap up.
What are you talking about? You can't do that. My husband kept getting mad at them, but it didn't work at all. Then, my husband got a call from work, so he stepped out for a second. Of course, they started spewing their poison at me amidst all that chaos. There was a loud sound and my daughter with a broken plate at her feet. Mai, are you okay? I'm sorry, Mom. I just wanted to help you. My mother-in-law who saw that started screaming and yelling. Hey, what are you doing? That's my important plate. I'm so sorry. It was my fault. Your fault? Your daughter is just as useless as you are. I don't need you, you useless girl. Take her and get the hell out. I couldn't hold back anymore after my daughter was insulted. It was just my daughter trying to help out since they didn't seem to do anything at all. You can say what you want about me, but you better not say anything to her. She must have really gotten mad because I said something back, and she was furious. You stole my son from me! Get out, you thief! Get out! Get out! She was yelling as she opened the kitchen door and hit me with a broom. Get on your knees and beg. Promise to get a divorce and I'll let you in. She slammed the door in my face. It was dark out and snowing already. If I apologize, she'll let me in. I love my husband, but I really can't do this anymore. I should just make the promise. But I couldn't just stay in that house for 1 second longer, so I picked up my daughter and wrapped her in a cardigan. I ran to the station and caught a cab. From there, I drove about 3 hours back home. My parents saw me and ran towards me in a panic. They even paid a taxi off, which was pretty expensive. I felt so bad for them. After I put my daughter to bed, I explained everything to my parents. They were, of course, not feeling too good. However, I was also pretty exhausted, so I told them that I'd talk about it in the morning. When I woke up, I found my husband in the living room.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know where you went.
According to my husband, they had assumed I would come back begging immediately. My husband didn't know what was going on, so he ran outside to look for me, but of course, we were gone. They were all looking for us, but we weren't around, and I didn't even have my phone on me, so they couldn't call me. It was a big thing for 3 hours that I took getting to my parents' house. My husband kept calling my parents the whole time. My parents weren't that surprised because of that. And then my husband called again, and they told him that I was here. He was on the first train back. She's never liked me, and I've been keeping it to myself, but I can't do this anymore. I think this is way too far, even for a mother-in-law bullying their daughter-in-law. And Mai is still a child.
I'm sorry, I was there, but I couldn't protect you.
I don't want anything to do with you or that family. I'm Sorry, but we should. Then I realized that I felt okay with a divorce. If he is one of them, then I really cannot love this man. But my parents probably didn't want to lose their heir, and if I just divorce here, then it's exactly what they would want.
Please don't divorce me. Rethink this. We won't go to my parents' house again. I don't want you to ever experience that again. I'm sorry I didn't protect you better. I thought it was just some light nagging. I'm so sorry.
I decided to try to work things out with my husband. I told him that Mai and I would never have to do anything with this family ever again. But apparently he was pretty over it this time too. He called his mom and let her know he was cutting ties with her. My mother-in-law was furious and came storming at our house. Please give me my son back. He's my only son, and it felt like he was being taken from me. I'm so sorry for saying those mean things.
You threw her out in the middle of the cold. What the hell were you gonna do if something terrible happened?
That's exaggerating, don't you think?
What you did is attempted murder. I'm not gonna forgive you, and I'm gonna report this to the powers that be. I've got nothing to talk to you anymore, so get out. Mom, please don't destroy my happiness. I'm not going back to that house anymore. I'm never going to see you again. Go home.
She was bawling after he told her that. We spoke to a lawyer and we were preparing to sue them, but because my sister-in-law was getting remarried, they came with money for a settlement. I was going to tell them to go away, but honestly, I was busy with the farm work too, so I decided to accept the settlement. But when we let the future husband know about what was going on, the marriage was called off. He must have been really worried after finding out that I was considering suing the mom. I figured they would come here up in arms, but that never happened. My husband used to send money back home, but he stopped that too. They ran out of money, so they are all working part-time jobs, so they don't have time to storm our house. I think we'll be able to live a nice, peaceful life for a while.
My name is Yuki. I was recently married. I loved my sister-in-law, Rikako. She was perfect. She could do everything. I honestly admired her. She lived with my mother-in-law, but she always hates on Rikako. According to my husband, my mother-in-law loves my brother-in-law the most, and when she's upset about the fact that Miss Rikako took him from her. After getting married and visiting their house for the first time, she was terrible towards Rikako, complaining about everything and not moving at all herself. I felt bad for Rikako. I saw that and decided to help as much as I could, and ever since, I get along with Rikako. One day, I had something to do with Rikako, so I showed up at their house. The living room was like a sauna, and Rikako came out looking sick. When I asked what was going on, my mother-in-law said, "The AC costs money, so we're not going to use it," and proceeded to hide the AC remote. I wanted to talk to the mother-in-law and warn her about heat stroke, and when I realized that she was in her own room where the AC was on full blast. "What the hell are you doing here?" "Hey, why can't she use the AC? Not using the AC on a hot day like this will make her have a heat stroke. You know that." "AC? Ugh, just turn it on." She pretended to act like she had no clue what I was talking about. I started explaining more about the fears of heat stroke. I warned her that she shouldn't do this and to be careful going forward. This was apparently not a good idea, and she started saying nagging at me. "I'm sorry, Miss Yuki. I got you into this mess." "It's okay. I did not want to say anything to you in that situation. Besides, I'm pretty resilient, so I'm not going to lose." Or so I said, but I was pretty tired of her incessant nagging every day. "You can't do that either." I started talking to my husband to see if he had any advice. He said that his company was busy right now, so I could go help him there. At first, I was nervous, but I started working. I started having fun and also was able to get away from my mother-in-law's nagging. A few days later, I started getting calls from Rikako that surprised me. Yuki, I'm sorry, but can you come by the hospital with a change of clothes for me? Apparently, my mother-in-law did not appreciate that her nagging didn't really work with me. She turned around and started getting mad at Miss Rikako. I really hate that Yuki girl, huh? You're just as annoying as her. You're married in and you can't make a single dish correctly. How did you even decide that you'd be okay to come get married? I've got it. I'll teach you how to cook today. You still have some leftover ingredients from that tempura, right? We're training now. I've put on my apron. She started getting ingredients ready to make more tempura. You start off with the tempura way too low. That's why it's so melty. Are you measuring the temperature? I was watching TV the other day, and apparently the pros measure it using their fingers. Come on, you do the same. Come on, hurry. Wait, hang on. Stop! They struggled a little bit there, and the hot oil flipped over and splashed her on the chest. She was burned. Rikako was also pregnant, but because she tripped, she lost the baby. Oh, this happened because I ran away from our mother-in-law. Yuki, it's not your fault. Please bring the change of clothes tomorrow. I want to talk to you about something. The next day, I headed to the hospital. Yuki, thank you for coming. So, about what I wanted help with. It's almost her birthday, you know. I was told to make a birthday cake for her. So I wanted to ask. I listened and was surprised but decided to agree on what she was asking for as a way to take revenge on my mother-in-law. There were a bunch of her friends at that party that day. How could you go to the hospital over some burns? What a useless wife. My wife is always asleep because she feels sick. Seriously, she doesn't even do anything. Useless. You should chase her out then. She started eating ordered sushi and all that was left was the cake. Rikako, bring the cake. Hurry up. Yes, ma'am. I'll get it ready. Here you are. Cut it already. She ignored her nagging and quietly cut the cake down for her. All right, everyone. Let's enjoy the cake. Thank you. What is this? The cake tastes terrible, doesn't it? Ever wonder what deadly poison tastes like? You realize what you've done. You have high blood pressure, right? The poison will circulate sooner for you then. Oh no. Yuki works at a pharmaceutical company, so she knows what she's talking about. Here is your antidote. Then Rikako pulled out her phone. If you explain everything you've done to me to everyone, I will give you the antidote right away. The person she wanted the mom to reach out to was my brother-in-law, her husband, that was away for business. Miss Rikako had talked to her husband time and time again about all the terrible things she did, and he had kept telling his mom to stop and cut it out, but she never took him seriously. Tadashi, dear, help me. I was poisoned by Rikako.
Mom, Rikako told you, right? If you explain everything, she'll give you the antidote.
My mother-in-law stayed quiet, and her friends kept begging for help. From the amount of poison, you've got about 30 minutes before you die. You better speak up. Oh, okay. I'll explain everything. I told Rikako about how to do chores. You told her how to do chores? You mean how you forced her to live without AC in the middle of summer? Or how you poured hot oil on her? That's all showing her? Yuki, let's toss the antidote. Wait, hang on. I did it on purpose to chase you out because you stole my baby from me. But you wouldn't leave, so I got mad. Okay, I'll leave. Your husband already passed away, and Tadashi is overseas, so I lived with you because I thought you'd be lonely. I was an idiot. Goodbye. Wait! Leave the antidote! By the way, there's no poison in that cake. Don't worry. It's just some bitter flavoring. You idiots.
They were all stunned as we left the house. Afterwards, my brother-in-law came back home and cried, apologizing to Rikako. Rikako decided to stay married after thinking long and hard about it. And there were conditions. There are 3 conditions. 1, we never see your mom again. 2, she pays me all money in damages and treatment fees. Okay, understood. And 3, we don't tell her our new address after we move. Afterwards, Rikako started living with her husband again, and she was able to get pregnant once again. She seemed happy. My mother-in-law was obviously furious about the fact that even after paying for everything, she couldn't see her little boy. After that, all of her friends also abandoned her, and she apparently got old very quick. I also moved with my husband. We had been avoiding dealing with her entirely, but she suddenly called us out of the blue one day. Apparently, she caught a cold and was unable to move. She had some lasting effects from that, but everyone was so withdrawn from her that she had to live in a terrible facility where the service was horrible. After that, she stopped having any interaction with anyone, so she started developing dementia. She now walks around in circles around the facility, quietly, mumbling her son's name. My name is Momoko Sasaki. I had been dating Tomoki from college and we got married the spring of last year. After getting married, we had lived in his apartment for a while, but thinking about the future, we considered moving out. Hey Tomoki, your mom left me a message today. She says she's got something she wants to talk to you about. So, you should call her back. What do you think it's about?
I don't know. It's pretty rare. I'm really not good at dealing with that woman.
Tomoki's mother had passed away when he was young, so my mother-in-law is his stepmother. She'd always spoil her blood-related son, Koichi, so Tomoki and her never saw eye to eye. Welcome home, my son. You must be so tired. She's obviously not very kind to me either, so I did not like her as well.
Oh, hey Mom. I heard you called. What'd you want?
Actually, Tomoki, you know your grandfather's house? That really big house in the suburbs with a big yard. I'm going to be giving that house to you guys.
What?
You shouldn't be living in the tiny little place. Move to a bigger house already. That's why I reached out. You're going to have kids, right? She was an only child and inherited her parents' savings. Within that inheritance was an old house. She was saying that she would give it to us. She had always not been interested in Tomoki, so we were both confused. However, we were both just talking about moving to a bigger house. We had decided to at least check out the house once and headed out the next weekend to take a look. We showed up to the house, excitement in our eyes.
What? This is it? No way!
It must have been left alone without being taken care of for several decades. It was like a haunted mansion. It almost looked like it was going to collapse and the trees had overgrown. It was definitely not somewhere people would live.
I thought it was weird that she wanted to give this place away. Now it makes sense.
This was just his mom annoying him again.
I'm not going to be able to live in this trashed house. Sorry.
He called her to let her know and... You can't just say no now. I said that I would give it to you instead of Koichi, so you fix it up. She threw a fit. I see that she doesn't want to take care of it herself, so she pushed the responsibility onto us. As we entered the trashed house, the rooms were all covered in dust and grime. Rainwater had seeped through, and some parts were rotten.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Tomoki sighed, seeing as the house itself was extremely fragile. If we were to just remodel the house from the inside and out, it would be a great place to live. Hey Tomoki, let's try opening the shutters. The yard is wide, so I'm sure it'll feel good to let the wind in. After we opened shutters, there was a lot of sunshine and wind blowing through the house. Wow, I want to live here.
What? Really?
Yeah, look at the structure. It's solid. If we just fix everything up and buy furniture, it would be great. The yard is wide too. I think it'll be a great house. Let's just try remodeling it, okay?
But that's gonna cost a lot of money.
Ha! I'm a great DIY expert. Leave it to me. So we started fixing up the house on the weekends. We opened up all the windows and cleaned up all the dust. We also tore up some of the flooring that was old and frail. We bought some tatami from a nearby store and had some professionals install it. We also replaced all of the rotten ones with a brand new fresh tatami. The parts that we didn't know, we looked up on the internet and asked some of our friends who happened to be contractors. We worked hard on remodeling the house. The house was a brand new place. It almost didn't look like as before. Of course, it wasn't like a professional remodeling, but I was pretty impressed that a couple of amateurs could do this. Not to mention that the house was literally done over on our own. It was full of love, more so than some random apartment.
It's finally done. Now we just need to move and start our new life.
This is so nice.
This is the product of all our blood, sweat, and tears. It's our home.
Right then. Wow, you guys have really fixed this place up, huh? What are you doing here? She must have figured out that we were almost done remodeling the house. She just showed up out of the blue. She came in without saying anything and walked around before saying something I still can't believe. This is such a nice house. It's wide, the sun comes in easily, and it's got a yard. Grandpa really left me a great house. I've decided. I'm giving this to Koichi and I'm going to live here with him. What?
You hang on a second. We worked all day and night to fix this place up. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow. What do you mean? This is my house. I own it. Do you understand? I'm free to do whatever I want with it.
Shove it! You think that kind of crap is gonna fly?
How dare you speak to your mother like that? I'm the one that owns this house. Do you understand? This house is mine. I've lent this to you for 2 months now. I can sue you for rent. We were just stunned. We continued to argue, but she just kept saying that she owned the rights to the house. I just couldn't stop crying over this whole debacle. She doesn't care at all. I'm moving in here by next month, so get the hell out. Okay? Thanks. She was clearly enjoying this and went home. We looked over once again at the house that we had worked so hard to flip, and we couldn't just let this go. That's when we decided that we were going to take our revenge on her. A month later. Hey! What is this? What's going on? She called Tomoki, furious.
What do you mean? What's wrong?
What do you mean? What do I mean? What the hell did you guys do? There's no way I would live in a house like this.
You said it was your house, so we just returned it in its original condition.
What do you mean, original condition? How are you supposed to live in a house with no floors? I've already terminated my lease.
I don't know. How about you work hard and flip it like we did? It's still a great house.
How dare you do this? I'm going to sue you!
Yeah, go ahead. We've already talked to a lawyer. If anything, we returned it in a better condition than it was, so you should be paying us.
I've raised you as my son for so long, and you're going to repay me like this?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that anyway. Bye.
How dare you! She was still screaming when he hung up. We had actually purchased a relatively cheap house and immediately started flipping it. Right before she moved in, we ripped out all of the new material and used it in our new house. In return, we used the old material from our new house in her new house. We had already experienced this whole process before, so we were able to finish everything pretty quickly. We have our new own house now. From what I've heard, she tried her best to fix up the house like we did. However, she spent way too much money, so she has a house but struggles with money. She's also been having a lot of natural disasters go her way, so her house was getting torn up. She no longer had any money to fix anything. However, the house was immediately covered in mold and she lives in a moldy house now. Serves her right.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. What did you think of today's episode? Leave a comment and let me know your thoughts on today's story. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe.